What is a theory of meaning? Most people assume that a theory of meaning begins by explaining what words mean. It doesn't. It begins with a stranger. Someone speaks, they make assertions, deny things, correct themselves, react to evidence, distinguish serious claims from jokes, possibilities from absurdities. The first task is not to assign meanings to their words. The first task is to make them intelligible. To understand a speaker is to understand how their assertions fit together, what follows from what would count as a correction, what would force a revision, and where they locate the boundaries between the actual, the possible, the fictional, and the absurd. This is why theories of meaning so often appeal to truth or truth conditions. Truth and falsity are not merely labels attached to sentences. They are tools for reconstructing the inferential structure that makes a speaker intelligible. Meaning appears not as the beginning of the process, but at the end of it. It emerges once a sufficiently coherent pattern of commitments has been reconstructed. But understanding a speaker involves more than identifying what they take to be true. It requires understanding how finally they carve the space of possibilities. Some frameworks draw only crude distinctions between truth and error. Others distinguish ordinary mistakes from implausibilities, implausibilities from fictions, fictions from absurdities, and absurdities from outright contradictions. As an example, one person may think that changing the date on which Caesar crossed the Rubicon leaves history largely untouched. Another may regard the same change as altering the entire trajectory of Roman civilization. Most people would eventually draw the line somewhere near the claim that Rome was governed by dogs. But the important point is that these thresholds are not arbitrary. They reveal the inferential resources available within a framework. The more finally a framework can distinguish possibilities from impossibilities, the more intellectual work it can perform.
And this is why the most ambitious theories of meaning have often converged on a single aspiration. They seek the point at which what a framework can carry and what a framework can verify are brought into alignment. In classical terms, this aspiration appears as the search for the boundary between the analytic and the synthetic. Technical narratives about meaning often assume that this boundary must remain stable if we are to rank some forms of discourse as more meaningful, more informative, or more cognitively significant than others. Or, stated differently, they assume that the inferential consequences a framework allows us to draw must remain broadly harmonious with what we can ultimately justify, establish, or verify. You can see this assumption almost everywhere. In attempts to distinguish the aspects of language that genuinely contribute to learning from those that merely decorate discourse. In attempts to separate explanatory structure from metaphorical collage. In attempts to determine which components of scientific language carry the deepest explanatory burden: mathematics, observation, theoretical vocabulary, or ordinary language. This is why questions about meaning never remain merely linguistic. They quickly become questions about knowledge, science, rationality, and authority. And this is only a glimpse of why controversies about meaning sit beneath some of the most ambitious projects in both philosophy and science. If these issues interest you, my courses explore this story in much greater depth, not as a collection of historical episodes, but as one of the central intellectual dramas behind modern philosophy, science, and theories of meaning.